Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Hot Chocolate online event celebrating Hot Chocolate Day, in advance of Sunday and National Hot Chocolate Day. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a lot planned in the next hour. We want to keep it quite relaxed and informal, and we really do hope that you enjoy. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Kerry and I'm Director of Fundraising alongside my colleague Helen, who's also attending today. We're also joined by many of our fabulous fundraising team and office staff. And I also want to say a big thank you to those in the team that have helped put this day together. So Vicky, Jenny, Lynn, Andrew in marketing and the office guys, thank you so much for pulling this online event today. I hope you enjoyed the video that we've just shown you. It actually was made a year ago when we started our first ever hot chocolate event in January, early January. So a bit of fun there for you. So I hope that you have your hot chocolate at the ready. Coming up shortly, we welcome Yorkshire Shepherdess Amanda Owen and her lovely family who'll be making hot chocolate live from her kitchen. Then we'll be going live to ITV Calendar's Jon Mitchell for a weather forecast and a Q&A. And last but no means least, we're joined by Steve Waudby, our Director of Aviation, and Matt Syrat, our Clinical Operations Manager, to give a fascinating presentation titled Flying in the Face of COVID. And then before we finish, we're going to draw our raffle. Thank you so much to all that have got tickets. We have raised an amazing £584. Thank you so much. Just a bit of housekeeping. If we do have any technical issues, hopefully we won't, and you are cut off, please just try logging on again onto the Zoom. You are all muted so that we can just give everybody the best possible experience. We're recording the session as well, so if you did want a recording, we can send that to you afterwards. That's on our YouTube channel, but it will just be the speakers, it won't be you as attendees.
So kids, what else are you going to tell? You're going to tell them about the sheepdogs. You can now take over stirring the milk and you go and have a chat about what you've been doing with the sheepdogs this morning.
That's what I want done. This morning I took all the sheepdogs. Who's next? Why are you having Hannah? Definitely have me what you have.
Can you tell them what they're all called?
We have two terriers, which are Chucky and Sprout, and we have lots of sheepdogs. We have Nell, Tip, Kay, Taff, and Midge.
Midge, yes, yeah. Exactly. But I'll tell you something, they just wanted to go back in the kennel this morning because there's a massive flood, and even getting to and from the farm today is difficult because there's so much water in the river. But you know, we've had snow, so guys, look at the screen please, because I don't want to see your back. Are you going to tell them about what you've been doing in the snow? Huh?
I've been snowboarding and skiing.
Yeah. I've been snowboarding.
Tell the screen. Tell Kerry.
I've been snowboarding and sledging. I've been looking up my pennies and going sledging.
Yes. Yes, she's getting sticky dog for you. And we've been building an igloo. And I mean, the thing is that a lot of people will say, well, you know, snowy weather like that will make your job as a shepherd much harder. And it does. There's no doubt about it. But there is this kind of feeling also that a proper wintry winter is actually a good thing, don't you think? Well, it's good for it to be snowy. I mean, you know, with global warming and all the rest of it, that rather knocks nature into issues and troubles when the birds come back and start laying their eggs too soon. So, you know, a cold, snowy winter, as long as your animals are all well fed and bedded up and everybody's okay, then that will do. Okay, but hang on, I better just take over for a minute. You talk to people about your snow.
Well, what hot chocolate flavour would you like?
I'm just having hot chocolate. Can you turn around and talk to Kerry, please, Alice? Thank you.
Where's the hot chocolate?
There you go. Right.
Caramel. Luxury hot.
It's always chaos here. Huh? Are you going to tell people at home what else you've been doing?
We have been feeding the sheep and feeding the horses.
Yes, we have, because they're hungry at the moment, aren't they? Huh?
Yeah, because they were cutting new up, and they can't get the grass because the snow's covered it up.
Yeah, and what about the lost sheep? Can you tell me about the lost sheep, Violet?
No.
Yeah, the 20 lost sheep. Huh?
Yeah, we got 20 lost sheep in snow just all around on top of the moors.
And even better, we also had a friend that brought us a skidoo. So this could actually, it's a bright yellow skidoo, so it's actually kind of in the livery of the Yorkshire Air Ambulance. It's exactly the same shade. So as long as we don't fall off it and need the services of the Yorkshire Air Ambulance, we'll be fine, won't we, guys? Yes, please, that'd be perfect.
I put my horses in the stable today because it was too rainy for them.
Yeah. You can
And what name were your horses, Clemmy?
You can imagine that living somewhere like where we do, out in the sticks, the air ambulance is actually a vital service. We work a lot with Swaledale Mountain Rescue because in a normal year we have a lot of visitors and people walking through. And you know, with all the outdoor activities, canoers, swimmers, and all the rest of it, it's quite easy to get in trouble. So knowing that you have the air ambulance on call should you need it is absolutely brilliant. So you know, it's a valuable service, isn't it, guys? You've seen it land, haven't you, at Ravenseat?
We get always out when it's sunny.
I think the conversation's just so random here. They're all chatting about their own little things, aren't you? Huh? No, don't do that. Oh, so no, it's great to be involved. We also did some mountain rescue training not that long ago. Do you remember? We did some mountain rescue training whereby we had search and rescue dogs looking for us, didn't we? So you know, it's all for the greater good because, you know, this year of all years, people have made me realise the value that they place on the great outdoors and getting out into the countryside. And of course, it's services like the mountain rescue and like the air ambulance that you need when it all goes wrong. Fortunately, us personally, we have never needed the services of the air ambulance. They have been called out twice when I've been giving birth, but I've always managed to sort that one out quite successfully, as you can see. So there you go. I think these hot chocolates, things are starting to smell good. I think there might be a few questions from people at home, and I think Kerry might have got them. So let's see what people are asking and what people are interested in, shall we, kids?
Yeah.
Your hot chocolates look so good, everybody. Well done.
Oh, this isn't the end
yet.
We're supersizing. There'll be cream and all sorts in a minute.
I can't wait.
Yes, pour it in. Get pouring.
So hands up, kids. Who's going to continue on the farm then when you're a little bit older? Well, I know you're working with it now, aren't you? But are you all going to? Yeah, definitely.
This is what I'm always encouraging them to, you know, they've got to follow their dreams, whatever they want to do. And I'm not quite sure, what are you wanting to do when you're older?
I want to be a farmer. I want to be a farmer.
You want to be a farmer?
That's amazing.
What about you, Clemmy?
Horse rider.
She wants to be a horse rider, and bless her, she thinks that Tony's going to grow bigger. Like, she's going to grow bigger. So you know, we'll have that discussion another day. But yeah, what about you, Violet? What do you want to do?
I want to be a vet.
A vet. That would be
that's amazing.
Yeah, we like that. And of course, I've even got Raven at home now, and she usually would be studying biomedicine at York University, but she's at home as well. And Ruben's at home some of the time because he's now got a job. He's got an apprenticeship, so he's out and about mechanicking. So at the moment, he's furloughed some of the time and at home some of the time. So basically, I've got a full house. Can you imagine what it's like? Every time I hear the fridge door go, I absolutely freak out because can you imagine? They're eating me out of house and home. That is why we have a house cow. That means that we can make hot chocolate. Because if not, I'd always be having to go and buy milk. So this year, we've learned all kinds of lessons in self-sufficiency, haven't we?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Bread making. We've even had a go at making cheese. We've made butter. So you know, it's just about trying to limit the amount of times you have to be out and about. It's really funny, isn't it? In us living where we do, we feel like we've almost got friends all over the globe, whether it's people who've watched our television programme or read the books or just through social media. It's amazing the connections you can keep and maintain during this horrible pandemic. If you're sort of willing to think out of the box a bit, you know? We had all the
definitely.
Yes.
Amanda, we've got some pressing questions from the chat. Did you find the sheep? Did you find the sheep? I
did find the sheep. Now, what had happened? Right, guys, I'm going to ask for complete complete silence.
These are very important.
I'm going to ask for complete silence whether I get it. Right, you haven't got your cream on yet?
Yeah, shall I do cream?
We found the sheep. We retrieved 16 of them. 2 had come in on another moor. I think remember there was 4 or 5 in the pen.
It doesn't matter what cup
They're
you
fighting
get.
over the cup. The rest of them were up at the top of what we call Wissendale. Now there was 4 that we could see, but we couldn't actually get. It is really funny how when the sheep and actually tended and foddered, which they are every day and twice a day whilst there's been this bad weather on, how quickly they revert to being feral. I think probably the same thing would happen with the kids, to be fair. But basically we tried, me and Clive went, and we tried to put our dogs back around the sheep and they just headed for the hills. So they were absolutely fine. So there's 4 that are still out there that we will catch up with. But yes, all accounted for. But I mean, that was just, yeah, it was, I guess it was a show that no matter how well you plan, nature can still sort of pull a fast one on you, because again, there was no storm forecast, it was just continual snow. That's what you deal with here.
Would you like cream on?
Yeah,
Yes,
it
please.
sounds mad.
Yes.
So I've got a question about your book, Amanda. So just over a month, your new book, Tales from the Farm, is going to be out, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's just 1 year since your last one as well, Adventures of the Yorkshire Shepherdess.
Yeah.
How do you gather so much content? You've told us so much already in this short time. And I guess, what is your favourite book out of the 2 as well?
Ooh, it's really difficult, because I think the thing is, the hard bit is, get yourself a tea. The hard bit is, in order to keep material coming for the books, you have to keep doing the job. That is my big fat excuse. Whenever my editor rings up from London and says, right then, Amanda, have you got your latest manuscript? And I say, no, I haven't, because I've been gathering information. In other words, I have to keep doing what I do. If I take the wellies off and chuck away the coat and the hat and don't ever go outside and run around the sheep and get snowed on, rained on, all the rest of it, kill my back, moving a pig feeder, all the rest of it. If I stop doing all that, then I haven't got anything to write about. So it just means that I'm even more busy than usual. But just, if you imagine, I'm working every day with all the things that people tell you not to work with. Them and animals. You know what I mean? So pretty much it's a recipe for disaster. You know, things keep happening and I just keep writing about them. You know, it's really strange how the mundane and the normal has in a way become yeah, cheers.
Cheers.
Don't they look great?
They look amazing. Cheers. Oh, brilliant. I like better than mine.
So yeah, we just keep writing. And I mean, the thing is as well, I suppose there is this little element of me. It is a farm diversification. So it's in addition to doing what we do as well and making ends meet, of course, because you know it's with all these kids to rear and a life to live. You know, that's all I see it as. You know, it's just the strangest thing. I take pictures, I write stories, I chase sheep about, and I shovel the proverbial. That's as exciting as it gets. And if anybody out there is even slightly inspired or thinks, I wonder if I should have a go at writing, then I want them to think about me, who got an E in English at GCSE level.
That's amazing.
And I've now had 3 bestsellers. So it isn't necessarily about the qualifications you can get on paper. It's about I suppose it's about determination and drive and taking opportunities. I think maybe after this pandemic, after we've seen it through, there will be a lot of people that kind of have a different perspective on life, like it's pushed a reset button. Like you sort of think to yourself, right, what do you value? You know, what do you really want out of life? That's
Definitely.
I think taking opportunities that came my way. And the worst that can happen you know, is that you failed, and that's it. As long as you don't lose the things that matter to you, that are important to you, you should give things a go, definitely.
That is so good, Amanda. I just do not know how you do it all, honestly. So
Yeah,
we've
well,
had,
what it is, I've thrown all the crap behind that door so you can't see it, okay?
so we had a comment in the chat that your programme was a real tonic during lockdown for everybody. So just quickly before we finish, is there a new series coming out, and how are you finding filming?
Well, I think that people will have sussed that there has been more filming go on, but with what's happened with lockdown and all the rest of it, I am the camera woman. So we are doing a lockdown episode. So I think you've got enough marshmallows. Oh my God. You're going to have a massive sugar rush after this. Yes, there's more coming to your screen soon. What I would say is watch the social media, because I think in a very short amount of time, there will be an announcement. Everyone thinks maybe I have some kind of hotline to what's going on in the television and media. It's so strange. My life is here, chasing animals around, feeding things, sorting out the kids, all the rest of it. It feels like it's almost a different world, you know?
Yeah.
But I would just say, watch this space, because there is something very exciting coming.
Oh, that is so exciting. Well, we'll definitely watch out for that, and I'm sure we'll share it on our social media channels as well. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you to all your family. Can we see your hot chocolates one more time, everybody?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much. That's amazing. Really appreciate your time. Oh, I think everyone really enjoyed that. Thank you. Okay, so now it's time to go live to ITV Calendar Studios in Leeds to see Jon Mitchell. Jon, are you there?
I am, yes. Are you able to hear me?
We are.
Oh, fantastic. It works. Me and technology.
Have you got your hot chocolate, Jon?
Well, I've got my mug. Do you know what? I've been having a delay. I didn't sleep last night because, you know, I was wondering, do I fess up or do I not? I don't like hot chocolate.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
you can't say that on hot chocolate day.
Do you know, and I thought, yeah, I better fess up because I can't pretend it's hot chocolate in here. It's lovely coffee. Let me tell you, it's absolutely delicious. And I've got the mug and I've been promoting it. So, but I don't like hot chocolate. I do like marshmallows, to be fair, but marshmallows and coffee, nah, I don't think so.
You can try it.
No, I don't think so. I really don't. But anyway, it's lovely to see you all. Goodness me, all these people. Hi.
Thank you for joining us.
That's
okay. So we have a few questions for you, Jon, but we're just wondering if you could give us a brief weather forecast first.
A brief one? Goodness me.
Doesn't have to be brief, as long as you want.
I'm looking out the window here, actually, in the car park of ITV Yorkshire, and there's a big pile of snow in the corner. You remember that last snow we had early last week? Well, the contractors came around with the sort of bulldozers and piled it all up in one corner, and it's still there, actually, even though the temperature outside is about 10 degrees. But it's going to turn colder, and there's a bit of a problem for tomorrow because there's some snow coming up from the south, and it's going to affect Wales and the Midlands. And it's just how far north it comes. Is it going to affect us? At the moment, I don't think it will. All we'll have tomorrow is a cold wind. It's really going to start to turn colder again tomorrow. We've got an easterly wind setting in. You know, there's an old weather saying, when the wind's in the east, it's no good for man the beast. No good comes of it. I'm sure Amanda will sort of back me up on this. A cold wind from the east is nithering. It's sort of it's cold and it's a bit miserable, and that's what we're going to get tomorrow. So you'll need to wrap up if you're going out tomorrow. It's going to feel quite cold. I mean, it'll feel like 0 degrees. I mean, that on the actual thermometer, it'll be 5 degrees, but it'll feel like sort of 0 degrees. So a cold wind coming in tomorrow. And then next week, I think the wind's going to set into the east. And certainly next weekend, not this weekend, next weekend, it's looking like we might have, you know, I don't know whether I ought to utter this phrase, a beast from the east. It really is going to come in cold, and there'll be some snow, prolonged snow showers, and I think we're all going to get a bit of snow over the next 5 to 10 days. And I'm surprised the Daily Express haven't picked up on it, actually. They've normally picked up on it by now. You know, Snowmageddon, worst winter ever. We're all going to freeze to death and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it is going to turn colder, certainly. So we're not out of the woods yet, for sure.
Oh, no. I was hoping you were going to tell us it was nice and spring-like and sunny.
Well, I can tell you that if you like, but it won't happen.
Well, I was going to ask you what we had in store for the next month, but I think you've let us know that. So I think.
Well, yeah, that's for the next week or so. I mean, you know, it's very difficult to see more than about 10 to 15 days ahead with any sort of certainty. I mean, weren't we so lucky last spring though with the first lockdown? It was absolutely amazing, wasn't it?
It
was. It was lovely warm temperatures. It was blue sky, that deep blue sky that we don't often get. And that's because the wind really was coming from the north, from the clean north. You know, there was no pollutants. It was all sort of nice. But you know what? We very rarely get nice springs followed by nice summers. You see, you know, I've been 40 years in the business sort of thing in the Met Office and studying these kind of things. If you get a good spring, you're not going to get a good summer. And if you get a poor spring, chances are you'll probably get a good summer, but you can't have both. So I don't know, you pay your money, you take your choice.
And do you think we'll have a good spring and summer this year or?
It's hard to tell at the moment, Kerry. Hard to tell.
Oh, Jon, I think we need to know there's going to be a bit of sun in our gardens. And
we these days, you know, with climate change and what have you, we seem to have better springs than we do summers. But we're funny, aren't we? You know, we're used to going on holiday in normal times, and we're used to be sitting on the beach, sunshine, day after day after day. But we just don't get summers like that in this country, and we never have. Well, I think we have higher expectations these days. People want long, hot summers. And climatically, we just don't get those. So it's unusual if we do. But my money will be on a better spring than a better summer, for sure.
Well, that's nice. Well, spring is sooner than summer, so that's good news, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So, in these kind of times that we're in at the moment, Jon, we're really interested to know how COVID is affecting you and the team at Calendar. Can you just sort of take us through?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been very lucky, really. I do think about this quite a lot. I come into work every day. We're classed as key workers. Now, I know we're way down on the scale as far as key workers are concerned, don't get me wrong, but we are in the media classed as key workers, so we're allowed to come into work every day. And so I consider myself very lucky for that. Yeah, we've got to wear masks, you know, there's tape all over the floor. There's certain places we can't go. We've got to keep our distance. You know, in the studio, Christine and Duncan and myself, we've got to stay more than 2 meters apart, and everything has to be sort of sanitized. So it is an unusual environment, but I am really lucky that I can come into work and see people every day. And I know a lot of people can't. My wife can't, for instance. She's a teacher. She's doing it all online, and she doesn't really get to see people like I do. So I'm lucky in that respect. But it is a difficult time. Certainly for our reporters, it's very difficult for them. They've got to go out, and they can't go in people's homes. They've got to stay outside. They've got to have these, you've seen them, the microphone on the end of a long pole. They've got to wear masks, and it is difficult, but you know, it's not all that difficult when you see how people are having to cope in hospitals and places like that. So I am very lucky, really, in that respect, that I can come into work every day and interact with people.
Good, yeah, that is a good point, because we're all at home at the moment in the fundraising team, and we're missing seeing all our brilliant supporters out there.
Yeah.
So,
I can see actually, Kerry, out the window, the you know, here in Leeds, the LGI is just over there. So occasionally the air ambulance does come past, which is, let's give it a wave, you know. Yeah,
and all our fantastic crew are out there saving lives every single day still, even sort of with what's going on. So I love behind the scenes stuff. Really love it. So can you just give us a bit of behind the scenes insight? How is your sort of daily, how does your day go?
Well, I mean, it's, you know, it's not all that different, to be honest. You know, I look at all the weather data, all the weather information that's coming in on the screen from various sources, from the Met Office and different computer models around the world. I put it all together, I make up my graphics, and then I go into the studio and present those graphics, which is what I do normally anyway. The only sort of difference is that we can't get out and meet people. I mean, people often ask me, what's the best part of my job, and I think many of us here will agree, it's meeting people. It's talking to people that we wouldn't otherwise talk to. And everybody has a story. Everybody has a story in them. And it's great to be able to meet people and pull those stories out. And of course, at the moment, it's only really essential reporting jobs that people are going out. I'm not going out. It's all studio based. It's all inside. It's all going into the studio and presenting the weather. And generally, I mean, not just part of my job, I really, really miss going to the seaside. You know, I was brought up at the seaside, and there's something about being at the seaside. And, you know, I can't go there at the moment. We can't go there. So if you do anybody live at the seaside? Anybody at the seaside? No. You'll be, I mean, I get pictures. The best part of my job is that I get viewers' pictures showing me, you know, weather scenes, and more often than not, they are at the seaside. And I feel so jealous. I think I'd just like to go to the sea, to walk along the beach, to feel that fresh air. It would be absolutely amazing. But obviously I can't at the moment. So my job isn't all that much different. The only part at the moment is that I can't get out to meet people. And hopefully we'll all be able to do that again soon.
We really hope so. We really hope so. Just one quick question, because I know you've got to get back to doing what you do best and doing your broadcasting. So I know you've kind of alluded to it already, but when we can get back to a bit more normality, apart from going to the seaside, what do you think you'll do? One of the first things that you'll do?
It's got to be going to the pub.
Oh, yeah.
It has to be going to the pub. You know, even if you don't drink alcohol, it's great to get there and to talk to people. You know, we've been watching some dramas on TV, and those filmed before the lockdown. You know, going into a pub and it's buzzing and there's people there and you talk to people. You know, that's the best part about going into the sort of pubs that I go into in around this area. You always talk to somebody. You know, you order your beer at the bar, and then you're waiting for it. You talk to the person who's next to you, and as I say, everybody has a story, and that's the best part for me. Or that's the bit that I miss most, is going into a pub, not just drinking, of course, but socialising with people.
Yeah.
And going to a restaurant as well. I mean, before this latest lockdown, we could go to restaurants, but you know, the atmosphere wasn't there. The tables were so spread out, and it wasn't quite the same. So I'm really looking forward to getting back to going into pubs for a long country walk, going into a country pub and just talking to people, and
I think,
and restaurants as well. You know, where people are closer and there's a hubbub and an atmosphere. So yeah.
I completely agree, John, and we'll all get there one day, won't we? Definitely.
We will.
We'll be there
we will.
again.
Absolutely,
we will. John, thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Great to see everybody, by the way. One or two faces I do know.
Yeah.
Katie
Pass our
and
regards
Matthew
all at Calendar as well, won't you?
Yeah, we'll do.
Thank
All the
you.
best.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kerry. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, Amanda. Bye.
Okay, so thank you to John. Brilliant to see him and to get a personalised weather forecast for us. So time for our final speakers now. Steve, our Director of Aviation, and Matt, our Clinical Operations Manager. I think we're just unmuting you now, and over to you. And Steve, I think you're going to share your screen.
Yes, I will do. Thank you, Kerry. Let me just do the IT bit first. Hopefully you'll be able to see that. Give me a thumbs up.
Lovely. Yep. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls. It's so nice to see so many people here today enjoying themselves. Before we start, can I have all the children, please, to either give me a big happy wave or a cheers with a mug, and that includes all the adults who are still young at heart. So can I have a big cheers? Wonderful. Thank you very much. Who says fundraising can't be fun? So first of all, I'd just like to say a big thank you to Kerry and the team who have put this together today. It's absolutely wonderful. But also, it's so nice to see so many of our fundraisers who have logged on today, and obviously lots of the members of the public. I have to say, without your continued support and generous donations, we wouldn't be able to keep our critical care staff airborne and to be able to treat the people of Yorkshire in their time of need. So I really do appreciate that. And from the operational team, a big heartfelt thank you to everybody. So as Kerry's already said, my name is Steve Waudby. I'm the Accountable Manager and Director of Aviation at Yorkshire Air Ambulance. Very lofty titles, but basically I help to keep the aircraft running while my colleagues actually fly the operations.
Good morning, everybody. First of all, I loved Amanda and the girls doing the hot chocolate. And in true Amanda and the girls fashion, my name is Matthew and I'm far too old to mention. But thank you and good morning anyway. I'm a senior paramedic for the Yorkshire Ambulance Service, but also the clinical operations manager for the Yorkshire Air Ambulance. So, the Yorkshire Air Ambulance, and forgive me for preaching to those who are already aware, but this is for the members of the public who might not be aware, but we are a charity-funded helicopter emergency medical service, bringing pre-hospital critical care to the people of Yorkshire and its surrounding areas. The charity has 2 Airbus H145 helicopters capable of delivering a day and night service 365 days of the year. Now, it costs approximately £4.5 million each year to deliver this service, which is approximately £12,000 per day. On average, we attend approximately 2 to 3 jobs per day per aircraft, and we have flown over 8,150 patients to hospital since we were formed 20 years ago. Actually, it was last year, 2020 was the 20th anniversary. Of course, we couldn't do this on our own, which is why we have a partnership with the Yorkshire Ambulance Service. All our paramedics and doctors are provided by the Yorkshire Ambulance Service, and we have a mixture of seconded and full-time HEMS paramedics. But we're actually all seconded from the NHS Ambulance Service. We have 17 paramedics and 12 doctors, and the secondment period is between 2 and 3 years before they return to their operational duties, where the skills that they've learned can be utilised within the wider service. So how did we as a charity approach the pandemic? The most important question was, how do we look after our staff during this crisis, which also meant looking after their mental health and well-being. We estimated that due to the restrictions placed on our fundraisers, we would probably lose approximately £600,000 to £700,000 in local donations due to the cancellation of village fetes and sponsored activities, and the lockdown scheme meant that our admin and fundraising staff would have to work from home. Our trustees took an early decision, therefore, not to furlough our staff, but to draw on our reserves if required, to help maintain morale and to ensure that we still had a cohesive team once the restrictions were lifted. We also paid for loss of license insurance for our pilots and subscribed to a pilot peer support program to allow confidential reporting and psychological counselling to take place without fear of recrimination. The ambulance service has always had their own occupational health provider, where staff can self-refer for mental health support. However, due to the high acuity of the work we do, we put a business case together for some of the team to become TRIM practitioners. Now, TRIM is a trauma risk assessment management process. Paramedic TRIM training allows the very staff that are experienced in dealing with the same situations and incidents to support and signpost the most appropriate form of help. To protect our operational crews, we placed an immediate ban on all non-operational visits to our air support units to help reduce the chances of infection. This included the temporary suspension of filming of the TV series Helicopter ER. As with most healthcare providers, we introduced our own set of health and safety procedures across both bases. We provided hand sanitisers at all entrances, temperature checks, social distancing signage, and personal protective equipment to ensure we could be as COVID secure as possible. The decision was taken not to buy patient isolation pods, and the main reason being was the limited access to the patient once they were sealed in the pod, and so it wasn't practical for patients with severe trauma. The general consensus in the blue light aviation community was that only the military and Coast Guard operators would carry COVID positive patients because they had the space to take the wheeled versions of the patient isolation pods, and also they could socially distance themselves whilst flying.
What are the risk levels and how do we keep up with the ever-changing processes? Level 2 PPE versus level 3 PPE, cleaning procedures on base, minimal amounts of staff. These were all questions we needed to ask ourselves and take into early consideration.
There were shortages of PPE from the outset, with trusts reporting delays of up to 5 or 6 weeks of the bare essentials, such as face masks. The Department of Transport enlisted the help of the British Helicopter Association to put together a scheme whereby helicopters would be tasked at short notice to convey personnel and equipment, including PPE, to hospitals around the country. And during the initial lockdown period, we were a part of that scheme.
The uncertainties were too great in the early stages of the pandemic. What was safe? Who could travel? And were our staff safe, more importantly? All these decisions were considered when it was believed to be safer and more productive to transfer all patients by road. The staff could wear the appropriate protection and the aircraft would be operationally ready when the job was completed.
Moving on to the problems of PPE in aviation. The first thing to notice is that it's difficult to socially distance on a helicopter when the head of the patient is less than ½ metre from the nearest occupant.
The crew encountered problems with misting of spectacles and night vision goggles, as you can see in this photo, when paper masks were worn. Directing the ventilation to the face sometimes helped reduce the fogging.
Protective goggles have been issued to all crew members, but these can't be worn in the front of the aircraft as they impede lookout and can't be worn with the night vision equipment when we are night flying. The protective goggles are worn by all crew members when we are loading or unloading a patient or when travelling with a patient, thus maintaining, where possible, level 3 protection.
Whilst wearing a mask, we still need to communicate between the crew, our air desk, and with air traffic control. Trials were carried out to check the clarity of speech whilst wearing the face masks. We found that speech was acceptable and both level 2 and level 3 paper masks were adequate. What do we do if staff members fail the fit test? And the fit test is the method of checking that the more suitable masks fit to a person's face. For the rear cabin, it was simple to provide them with a rubber half mask without speech facility. But for the front seat crew, we had to find another solution. We found this in the CorePro half mask, as seen in this photo, that utilises a modified filter port that we can then take the microphone from our own helmet and fit it in so we can communicate through it.
It is a HEMS requirement that all crew members wear protective flying helmets. In recognition of these unusual times, the Civil Aviation Authority issued a general exemption to allow the critical care team to continue to wear their protective suits whilst working in the rear of the aircraft. Concerns were raised by the pilots regarding the wearing of latex gloves whilst flying. However, there doesn't appear to be any sweating or slipping whilst holding the controls. Pilots are also not used to wearing surgical gowns or scrubs whilst flying, but it seems that the lightweight disposable plastic versions do not impede the controls and shouldn't cause a risk of snagging. A particular problem in the aviation community is the risk of foreign object debris, or FOD, being ingested into the engines or striking the controls and rotor blades. Masks and other items of PPE therefore need to be disposed of carefully. Most of the helicopter manufacturers came up with their own version of an isolation screen to separate the cockpit from the cabin. This isn't seen as a full protection from aerosol generated particles. So if, for instance, if somebody sneezes or coughs, as there's still a gap around the side of this screen. But it does mean that the pilot and front seat technical crew member don't have to wear eye protection. And during the summer months, the air conditioning is utilized, but not in the recirculation mode. So we don't have it going from the back to the front or vice versa. Cleaning and deep cleaning of the aircraft was looked at in greater detail. UV radiation was not considered at the time, but we have since learned that it makes the Perspex windscreens brittle. We regularly use ozone when we are washing our uniforms, but this but this has been proven to corrode electrical contacts and as has the use of chlorine. The only fogging and misting product recommended by Airbus helicopters is a product called Bacaban, which leaves a microfilm of liquid glass on the surfaces, and the product has an active ingredient which works against COVID-19 for up to 10 days. However, the advice from the ambulance service was to continue to use Steri 7 wipes on a daily basis. A decision was taken to fog the aircraft once a week and on occasions following on from a known contamination event.
I'll let you have a brief look at this graph. The graph demonstrates that we encountered a steady decline in HEMS taskable incidents. Now you'll see that April there is around about the first lockdown. After this period though, we noted that an increase throughout the rest of the year continued. And the additional line, so the blue line with no numbers on, is just there to indicate that they're 2019 incidents. So they're pretty comparable to what we were still continuing to do throughout the pandemic.
We would normally see a high proportion of road traffic related incidents. However, with lockdowns in place and more people working from home, these have reduced significantly. On the rise, however, were cardiac related incidents, DIY related accidents, and self-harm suicide related incidents. It would appear that the lockdowns and job losses have played havoc with people's mental health and well-being.
The butterfly effect is an example of how small things happening around the UK can have a massive impact on us as a HEMS provider. New lessons are being learned, and the constantly changing advice from the government and the ambulance service regarding PPE and procedures makes consistency very challenging. Donning and doffing. Training was carried out whilst wearing the full PPE to ensure all staff know what to wear, how to put on and how to take off securely. We adopted the National Ambulance Resilience Unit, or NARU, process, as this was consistently being used throughout most ambulance services. Nightingale. Now there's a word we've heard lots around this pandemic. The Yorkshire and Humber facility. The HEMS team from the Yorkshire Air Ambulance were redeployed for a period of 3 weeks. During this time, we undertook training to be able to potentially transfer the most serious COVID-related patients, and this was to the Yorkshire and Humber facility.
During this period of no HEMS flying, the pilots carried out their 6-monthly training on the aircraft as travel to the simulator in Germany was cancelled due to restrictions on travelling from Yorkshire, which was in a high tier level. It was also very noticeable that when our doctors and paramedics returned to flying, their understanding and experience of dealing with patients in a COVID environment was considerably enhanced by the training they had received whilst attached to the Nightingale team. And I was quite proud to watch them in action on their return to the unit.
It was appropriate that we looked at how and who we dispatched the aircraft to, considering the risk versus benefit and to ensure maximum patient contact whilst ensuring our staff had the correct equipment to maintain their own safety. All patients were initially transferred by land due to the unknown status of how the virus transmits and how safe we can physically be in the aircraft. Now, looking at unconscious trauma with unknown history, this is something that we deal with on a daily basis, usually most of the time. But not knowing the healthcare status of a patient during this pandemic made transport impossible without compromising safety. We looked at procedures to allow the patient to be conveyed to the most appropriate, able to receive hospital, and these were reviewed and monitored for best practice. The Resource Council changed its guidance on hands-only CPR until staff can be in full PPE. So CPR is the chest compressions that we would see if somebody was in cardiac arrest. Initially, the first responder in level 2, so quite basic protective equipment, would perform hands-only chest compressions, so no ventilating into the mouth, until further assistance was required, or further assistance arrived. Death of a colleague. Now, we've had quite a few since, unfortunately, and that's, for us, that's a massive and a tragic loss. It made us question our own processes, ensuring that we had the most appropriate, safe guidance in place. Our own risk assurance papers allowed us to mitigate the risks to allow us to start flying patients again. This included having credible information, the correct personal protective equipment, and the appropriate training. AGPs, aerosol generating procedures. What is an AGP? It's CPR with ventilation, intubation, a rapid sequence induction, thoracostomies. Is it safe inside? Is it safe to do outside? What are the rules? Again, these are all questions we were constantly asking and were constantly changing. Following ambulance service guidance and a recent outbreak in our emergency operations centre, it was mandated to wear face masks at all time in the aircraft, and then subsequently at all times in any of our premises. What can and can't be worn in terms of PPE, should or shouldn't be worn? This is an ever-evolving situation, and guidance was followed and amended whenever possible, and sometimes this was a daily process. We performed NARU, joint decision-making models, to ensure staff had the confidence to ensure the correct treatment and transport decisions were being made. But we still had to constantly review PPE. What are we doing now? What's our current operating procedure? We're flying patients who show zero signs or zero symptoms of COVID-19, but must undergo a risk versus benefit assessment to establish whether or not to fly. To fly somebody who's had an AGP, aerosol generating procedure, we need to do the JDM, the joint decision-making model, and it must be followed and documented. If it's deemed the patient would result in significant harm,
Sorry, Kerry, has Matt just frozen?
Yeah, we've lost Matt. Sorry.
Okay, well, I'll just continue until he gets back on again.
Yeah, thank you.
So, okay, so to fly patients who've had an aerosol generated procedure.
Change how you would first turn up to a patient, but it must be something.
We just lost you there, Matt, from to fly AGB patients. Do you want to cover that bit again?
Yep, flying AGP patients, sorry. We go through a national decision-making model. It must be followed and documented. If it's deemed that the patient would result in significant harm when compared to land transfer, then the decision must be to fly. Level 3 PPE, which is the most rigorous type of personal protective equipment, is to be worn on all conveyances by air. And this is regardless of assumed COVID-19 status.
So in summary, what we have seen is a steady reduction in workload up to and including the first official lockdown.
Coupled with that was our inability to transport patients due to government, Civil Aviation Authority and local ambulance service guidelines.
Escalated risk assessments for all patients regardless of COVID status. This is why we now wear level 3 for all air conveyances. There was an increased length of incident time, there was reduced availability, and the turnaround times at hospital were also increased.
We have a limited choice of receiving hospitals, as all have their own COVID-19 guidance. This includes our rooftop helipad in Leeds city centre, where the fire crew have had to change their own standard operating procedures in line with the current situation.
And remember, AGPs require more time and more preparation.
We have seen a steady increase in workload versus transportation rates, with many patients still being conveyed by land ambulance, albeit with our critical care team in attendance.
Our training was adapted to overcome personal protective equipment difficulties. We looked at communication, we looked at safety and how much time it would take.
On the back of a couple of incidents where our staff were required to self-isolate, we needed to amend our rosters for optimal performance and safety. This meant reducing our double shift pattern at one of our bases to a single shift, which gave us more resilience should a team member need to isolate. And in November, we introduced something called lateral flow testing kits for all crew members to use prior to reporting for duty. And I have to say that all of the pilots have now been vaccinated, as have most of the paramedics and doctors.
Steve, I can't see the pictures on my screen, but if you tell me they're on.
Yes, they're on.
Okay, so as you can see, there's socially distancing at work. We still had to train regardless of what happened. We needed to remain safe, but train in the personal protective equipment to make sure that we were demonstrating best practice.
Okay, so we're ready for the first prize then, which is a fabulous commissioned J.S. Reynolds painting.
Right.
That is
In true
drum roll.
FA Cup draw style, we have the ticket, and the ticket is 164. Can you see that? Am I holding it in the right place? 164.
Yeah, see that.
And switch into the spreadsheet. 164 is, where am I? 164 is there, and that is Philippa Howe from Malton.
Lovely.
Lovely.
Cool, well done. Second prize then, Linda, for a £100 B&M voucher.
Okay. So the second prize goes to number 51. Number 51, and that is number 51. Oh, we're all on the, where are we here? Joanne Handford from Sherburn in Elmet.
Well done, Joanne. And finally, third prize is a Yorkshire Air Ambulance goodie bag.
And
In a
Air Ambulance goodie bag goes to, where are we? What I would say, just a hint and tip here, if you are buying raffle tickets, don't buy the ones I bought because they're very faint and they're very hard to tear. 166, number 166. And that
Linda.
166. Oh no, I mean, oh dear, it's Philippa Howe from Malton.
Oh, Philippa's won too.
It's 1-2.
Oh, that was fair and square.
Absolutely.
Lovely. Thank you, Linda, so much. And thank you to everybody that's brought the tickets and raising a fantastic £584. So thank you all. And to the prize winners, and we will be announcing on Facebook as well. Right, so that concludes our event this morning. We so hope that you've enjoyed it. It's been absolutely fantastic. A big thank you to our speakers, to Amanda, to the children, to John and to Steve and to Matt, and to thank you to the team again for helping us to pull all of this together. It's been really great to see everybody join us in this virtual way. It really has been lovely to celebrate Hot Chocolate Day with you all. Don't forget to check out our social media pages, Facebook and Twitter on Sunday for the day itself. And please share your photos of all your hot chocolates. And there is actually a prize for the winner as well. So as we're leaving, we're going to just play a brief video. But for now, all, please stay safe and well. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.